Human Anatomy, Lecture 1, History and Definition. Chapter 1.1. Anatomy is very old science with roots in much of what is modern-day Iraq. The story of this subject is storied and sometimes perverse. While we use the knowledge from anatomy to become able to help human body function at its optimum, that is not always the case for why people were interested in our structure. Influential countries included Greece and Egypt. Early studies of the body by Egyptians was for the purpose of learning. Efforts to mummify their dead and deceased leaders. Who was the father of anatomy? Herophilus. Herophilus. Galen was a famous writer about the human body. Why was he such an authority for almost 1,000 years? Who saved his work? What language was it translated back into? Galen wrote many treatises, including On the Movement of the Chest and Lung, Anatomical Procedure, and the uses of the parts of the body of the man. Western Europeans had his work, but it was later translated by Islamic scholars. His works were translated back into Latin. So, who saved his work? Western Europeans, and it was translated back into Latin. And the reason why he was such an authority for 1,000 years was because he wrote on the movements of the chest and lung and anatomical procedures and the uses of the parts of the body. What did Leonardo da Vinci and Vestalius contribute to anatomy? Da Vinci used dissections to improve his drawings and painting techniques. Andreas Vestalius' dissections of the human body and descriptions of his findings helped correct misconceptions that had existed. Why is Harvey a notable figure in anatomy and physiology? His ideas on recirculation formed the basis for modern efforts in study of the heart and blood vessels. Any other notable takeaways? Anatomists' discoveries in the early 1800s, cross sections obtained from frozen cadavers and parts of the cadavers provided incredible sight into the complexity of the human body. William Harvey recirculation formed the basis of modern efforts to study the heart and blood vessels. So that's why he was such an important figure in anatomy. Once again, chapters 1.2, anatomy is a science concerned with structure and form. Physiology is a science concerned with function. Both are subdisciplines of biology. Anatomy has a subcategory such as comparative anatomy, developmental anatomy, embryology, regional anatomy, surface anatomy, systematic anatomy. Several specialized branches of anatomy focus on pathologic, radiographic anatomy, surgical anatomy. Subcategories such as comparative anatomy, developmental anatomy, embryology, regional anatomy, surface anatomy, systematic anatomy. Several specialized branches of anatomy focus on pathologic, radiographic anatomy, surgical anatomy, pathologic, radiographic anatomy, surgical anatomy, body organizations and anatomy nomenclature. 5 levels of human organization. Number 1, cells. Number 2, tissues. Number 3, organs. Number 4, organ systems. Number 5, organism. Cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, organism. 5 levels of human organization. Cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, organisms. Cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, organism. Organ system function to skin is to cover the body. The skeletal system is to provide support and movement. Nervous system is to coordinate controlled movements. Circulatory system is to transport substances internally. Small intestines absorb nutrients and excrete waste. Reproductive, allow for the propagation of species. Skin, cover the body. Skeletal system, provide support and movement. Nervous system, coordinate and controlled movements. Circulatory system, transport substances internally. Small intestines, absorb nutrients and excrete waste. Reproductive, allow for the propagation of species. Classifications and characteristics of humans: human organism, Homo sapien, man, intelligent, animal kingdom, breathe, digest, excrete, move, reproduct. Chordate embryo, notochord, dorso-hollow nerve, pharyngeal pouches. Mammalia, hair, mammary glands, 4-chambered heart, family, humans, humanoid, brain more highly developed than any other living. Movement, bipedal locomotive, anatomical monolecture essentials. Anatomy is a descriptive science. Derivations and deciphering vermis, worm, singular versus plural. Exilia, singular, exiliae, plural. In foramen, singular, forminia, plural. Ovarum, singular, ova, plural. Humerus, singular, humeri, plural. Anterior, front, posterior, back. Anterior, front, posterior, back, superior, up, interior, down, medial, middle, lateral, right or left, proximal, towards the head, distal, further away from the head. Anterior, front, posterior, back, superior, up, interior, down, medial, middle, lateral, either side. Proximal, towards the head, distal, towards the feet. Anterior, front, posterior, back, superior, up, interior, down, anterior, front, posterior, back, superior, up, interior, down. 3 reference planes, coronal, transverse, sagittal. Axial, general body regions. Axial region, head, neck, trunk. Appendicular region includes your extremities. Axial region, trunk. Appendicular region, extremities. Membrane's purpose: protect, separate, support the internal organs. Clinical application: to determine normal anatomical structure in a living person, a clinician will inspect, palpate, percussion, auscultate, reflex, chemical lab analysis. Inspect, palpate, percussion, auscultate, reflex, chemical lab analysis. Inspect, palpate, percussion, auscultate, reflex, chemical lab analysis. Human Anatomy Lecture 2, Cytology. Ribs is located in the coronal. Heart is located in the sagittal region. Stomach is located in the transverse region. Ribs, coronal, heart, sagittal, stomach, transverse. Human organizations: cells, tissues, organs, organ system, organism. Cells, tissues, organs, organ system, organism. Cellular function equals form. Form tells us what the cell will do. Cellular function equals form. Cell theory and cytology. Cell theory is a basic structural unit of life. Cytology is the study of cells. Why is the knowledge of cellular function so important? It's to find where things are and aren't working. What about cells? How many cells are we? We are made up of 75 trillion cells, over 200 varieties. Variations among cells include size, shape, function, structural modifications. Variations among cells include size, shape, function, structural modifications. Cells shaped and function: epithelial cells protect, muscle cells stretch, nerve cells transmit. Epithelial cells protect, muscle cells stretch, nerve cells transmit. Epithelial cells protect, muscle cells stretch, nerve cells transmit. Chemical substances of cells: water, electrolytes, proteins, genetic material, vitamins. Water, electrolytes, proteins, genetic material, vitamins. Major components of a cell: cell membrane, cytoplasm, organelles, nucleus. Cell membrane, cytoplasm, organelles, nucleus. Major components of a cell: cell membrane, cytoplasm, organelles, nucleus. Cell membrane. Membrane equals phospholipid bilayer. The phospholipid bilayer gives form. The outermost limit. Endoplasmic reticulum. Rough protein, smooth fat. Endoplasmic reticulum. Rough protein, smooth fat. Ribosomes. Synthesized proteins. Ribosomes. Synthesized proteins. Golgi apparatus. Post office. Mitochondria. ATP is synthesized. Golgi apparatus. Post office. Mitochondrion. ATP synthesized. Peroxisome. Lysosomes and peroxisomes clean the cell. Peroxisomes are in charge of cleaning. Vacuoles are in charge of storage. Storage. All cells have centrosome. False. Centrosomes/centrioles participate in cell reproduction. Centrioles participate in cell reproduction. All cells have centrosomes. False. Flagella, movement of a cell. Microtubes, cell support. Nucleus directs the cell's activities, enclosed by a nuclear envelope. Has small nuclear pores. Chromatin transforms DNA, nucleoli, RNA. Chromatin, DNA, nucleoli, RNA. Histology 1 lecture handout. Exactly what is a tissue? Composite structure of similar cells. Histology is a study of tissues at the cellular level. If looking for abnormal cells, we call it pathologist. If looking for abnormal cells, we call it pathology. Pathologist. The cells of different tissues structured differently. This structure tells us about the tissue's function. 4 major tissue types: epithelial, line or form surfaces; connective, fill space; muscle, cardiac, smooth; skeletal, nervous, neuron. Epithelial, connective, muscle, nervous. Epithelial, connective, muscle, nervous. Epithelial, connective, muscle, nervous. 4 major types: epithelial, connective, muscle, nervous; epithelial, lines or form surfaces; connective, fill space; muscle, cardiac, smooth; skeletal, nervous, neuron. Epithelial tissues covers organs and cavities, and line hollows organs. Categories of epithelia: membranous epithelia, glandulous epithelia. Simple squamous epithelia makes up a structure of capillary. Simple cuboidal epithelia is found lining small ducts. Simple columnar lines the GI tract. Simple squamous makes up the structure of capillary. Simple cuboidal is found lining small ducts. Simple columnar lines the GI tract. Simple ciliated columnar is found in the reproductive tract. Pseudostratified columnar, layers of flattened cells. Stratified cuboidal lines large tubes or ducts. Simple ciliated is found in the reproductive tract. Pseudostratified columnar has multiple layers of flattened cells. Stratified cuboidal lines large tubes or ducts. Transitional epithelium is found in the urinary bladder. Transitional epithelium, urinary bladder. Transitional epithelium, urinary bladder. Apocrine is not a sweat gland on the hand. Secreted. Tips of the cells secreted. Apocrine is not a sweat gland on the hand. Secreted means the tips of the cells are secreted. Apocrine is not a sweat gland on the hand. Merocrine is a sweat gland. Holocrine is a cell plus a product that gets secreted. Apocrine are sweat glands associated with hair. Merocrine is a sweat gland associated with the hands and feet. Merocrine, cell plus a product that gets secreted. Apocrine, sweat gland that's associated with hair. Human Anatomy Histology, lecture number 2. Remember the broad categories we are studying: epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue, nervous tissue. Epithelial, connective, muscle, nervous. 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 Loose connective tissue is found around blood vessels. Loose connective tissue is found around blood vessels. Dense, regular. The fibers all run in the same direction. Dense, regular. The fibers all run in the same direction. Dense, irregular. The fibers all run in different directions. Dense, irregular. Fill space. Elastic, dark staining elastic fibers. Elastic, dark staining elastic fibers. Reticular connective, found around organs. Reticular connective, mostly associated with the spleen and lymph nodes. Reticular connective, lymph nodes, spleen. Adipose, designed for storage. Adipose, designed for storage. Cartilage. Hyaline cartilage is found in the joints. Hyaline cartilage is found in the joints. Fibrocartilage, intervertebral discs. Fibrocartilage, intervertebral discs. Elastic cartilage, chondroblasts, chondrocytes. Elastic cartilage, chondroblasts, chondrocytes. Bone, blood vessels. Osteoblast, osteocyte. Bone, blood vessels. Blood, more red blood cells than white. Blood, more red blood cells than white. Skeletal, muscle tissues. Most important property equals ability to contract. Types. Skeletal muscle are shaped cylindrically. Skeletal, the cells are shaped cylindrically. Smooth, they're elongated. Cardiac intercalated disc. Smooth, elongated. Neural tissue, most important property, ability to respond to stimuli and convert that response into a communication. Call to action for other tissues. Composition, neurons, functional cells. Neuroglia equals support cells.